Let's bring in the strategic shuffle specialist to scope out what we saw today and make sense and what doesn't. Seamus Murphy has Liberal roots. He's with Council of Public Affairs. And Gary Keller is a true blue Conservative with Strategy Corp. Welcome to you both.
Great to be with you.
Surprises? Anything? Any surprises?
I mean, surprises, the number of new faces, I think, that came in from the backbench, but as well, you know, we heard about Stephen Guilbeault earlier, but to see Anita Anand come in into the procurement file from Oakville.
She's pretty,
she's a high-powered law prof, and, you know, this is a big file, you know, dealing with defense procurement. We're talking, you know, multi-billion-dollar processes that are underway that she'll be having to get up to speed on very quickly. The other thing that surprised me, though, was the degree of stability in the economic portfolios. I actually thought there would be more changes. You know, we knew that Morneau was going to stay put, but Bain staying put, Garneau staying put really showed that, you know, for all of the changes on the hot button issues that we saw in the election, it's really steady she goes on the core economic mandate of the government.
Just one point about surprises. I'll get that from you as well, but I'm curious what you make of a deputy prime minister. Harper government that you worked in never had one. Did it miss anything by not having one? And is this a big gain for the Trudeau cabinet in your view?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a title. It doesn't come with extra responsibilities or extra money or extra salary or anything or extra staff. It is a title, though, to signify her importance. If the prime minister is first among equals, well, Chrystia Freeland with this designation is almost 1A after that. And it demonstrates to everybody, not just around the cabinet table, but in her dealings, that she has a special responsibility on certain files and certainly speaks with a certain level of authority that others might not have. In the Harper government, I think it was very clear that it was felt that sometimes that position might be used as a springboard for other aspirations, and there was no deputy prime minister, and I think that was probably a wise move on Mr. Harper's part.
No heir apparent in training, okay. Seamus, one thing these shuffles do, they come along after every election, is they give you a chance to push the reset button, get a fresh look, a new direction. Is there any of that evident? I mean, you point out one thing, there's some stability there, but on the ones that changed, did you see anything that looks like a new theme or narrative?
Well, you see the government putting their stamp on the real troublesome issues that came up during the election campaign. So Freeland dealing with the national unity issue that we're now seeing emerging in Western Canada. Jonathan Wilkinson, Seamus O'Regan in new roles dealing with the balance between environment and energy. Patty Hajdu dealing with the pharmacare file. We have the opioid crisis that's still very problematic. And Bill Blair coming in to deal with gun control. These were really prominent issues that featured in the campaign. It's a minority parliament situation, so this is likely the cabinet that's going to take us into the next election. So, you know, I think that this is a much more political cabinet than we saw previously.
Same question to you. Anything change in tone?
A friend of mine would refer this to shaving ice cubes on the side. Like, there's not a lot of change here. A lot of the same faces. Really, who do you know in the PMO is alive and well? This is government not by cabinet. This is government by the former Langevin bloc and the people that run the former Langevin bloc. I think, you know, Mark Miller going into cabinet, Seamus O'Regan.
Mark Miller, former boyhood friend of Trudeau's, and Seamus was pretty tight with him.
Seamus was on the famous trip to the Aga Khan's Billionaire Island with him. But I think actually there will be some anger in Western Canada to say Seamus O'Regan is going to be the Minister of Natural Resources. This isn't a positive sign to us. Now, I think the thinking behind it was, you can always, if you can't get me, you can always get Seamus on the phone. But I'm not sure that's the right response by the government to a national unity crisis, and I think that's going to be a problem for them. So I think that is certainly alive. I think Freeland taking on this mantle of national unity expert. It's going to be interesting for her. You know, her Alberta roots coming from University Rosedale. I mean, I guess she's west of Yonge Street, but I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to have. Again, I think there's a lot of tinkering around the edges, a lot of the same people and a lot of the same roles.
Yeah, I do want to ask about Seamus O'Regan because my Alberta friends are a little apprehensive about this guy because he didn't exactly shine brightly in Veterans Affairs or in Indigenous Services what makes you think he's going to be able to cure
Well,
a national unity crisis?
People need to remember that we have another oil-producing region in Canada, and it's Newfoundland. We have a big offshore oil industry.
But he ticked off the Newfoundland Offshore Advisory Board. He couldn't even get that right.
I mean, they renegotiated the Atlantic Accords, which maybe didn't get a lot of attention, but was pretty significant in terms of new resources going to the Newfoundland government. Would be pretty familiar with the changes to the environmental assessment process because of some of the vocal stakeholders in his backyard. So, there's no doubt that it's going to be a challenging file. I mean, there's issues in the forestry sector. There's, challenges in terms of the mining sector and making that sector more energy efficient. So, there's no doubt that it's not going to be easy. That's why you see, Chrystia Freeland as well having a big role on some of the cabinet committees responsible for environment and economy. So it's going to be a team effort. And, I think that there's no doubt that my fellow Shema is going to have to spend a lot of time in Western Canada to ensure that that the voice of that industry is being heard.
Yeah, I think it's quite sad that at the moment he might have been needed the most. Jim Carr looks like his health has knocked him back on his feet a bit, and he's going to take some time to recover. He's not taking a full cabinet job yet. That's a big loss, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would have been great for them to have him in a full cabinet role, but understandably, he's got to look after his health first, and that's obviously number one in any case. But again, maybe not right people in right roles. You've got Dan Vandal, the minister, not for a Western economic diversification or a file like that, but for Northern files, yet you've got 2 out of 3 MPs from the North completely shut out. Other cabinet portfolios around the table. We now have a minister for middle class inclusion, not for those wishing to join it. And Bill Morneau, maybe he's just going to look after the Bay Street side, and Mona Fortune is going to look after the middle class side. A number of other questionable ministries just looks like make work projects for a lot of people. A lot of word salad titles here. They could have appointed full regional ministers. It looks like the Atlantic Canada minister is still from Mississauga. Yeah. Some real questions about the decisions made in this cabinet.
All right. I'm out of time. Thank you both for coming in. Appreciate your insight.